All right, hello there, thrill seekers. Today I'm going to do a book review, and maybe it'll be controversial, I don't know. Everything I think is controversial isn't, and everything I think isn't controversial is. But I read this book, The Grand Biocentric Design by Robert Lanza, MD, and Matej Pawsik. I think it's a Polish name, maybe? Or no, maybe it's Czech. Probably Czech. So I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, I've been to the Czech Republic. Maybe I'll go again, but I don't know how to pronounce that. This book was recommended to me by a viewer in Providence, Rhode Island, who thought I might like it. And I have to say I did enjoy it. I'll put it out there right now because I think people will sort of tend to jump on this right away. Is I know that Robert Lanza and his theories are not without controversy, so I'm gonna just bring you some of the controversy right off the bat. This is from Martin Tolbel, a critique of Robert Lanza. I found nothing new in Lanza's ideas. He simply brings together now tired and long discredited distortions of physics and mystery mongering on the edge of scientific knowledge. I must point out that nowhere in his description of biocentrism is an actual scientific theory. He does not posit anything that results in testable predictions. His claim in the Wikipedia article, which Wikipedia is in scare quotes, I don't know why, that future experiments such as scaled-up quantum superposition will either support or contradict the theory is utterly nonsense, etc., etc. Similar to Deepak Chopra, he builds his case on a number of arguments, all of which are wrong or simply do not add up to his preferred explanation of biocentrism. They are: scientists do not understand where the universe came from, and the Big Bang does not cover it. He says neither does biocentrism. That's what he writes. Quantum mechanics demonstrates that the universe only exists when being observed by consciousness, a fatal mistake. See his Matrix, this guy's Matrix article. Scientists do not understand consciousness, and he says, true, science has not been able to explain consciousness, but biocentrism doesn't explain it either. On the contrary, it reduces consciousness to biology. It makes the same failure as another New Age biologist, Ken Wilber, who promotes a theory of everything, blah, blah, blah. The laws of the universe are fine-tuned to allow life to exist, and scientists don't understand why. And he says biocentrism doesn't explain this either. Space and time are mysterious, and he says biocentrism doesn't explain this either. And he goes on and on and on and on and on. So I'm aware of the criticism. So, if you people want to jump into the comments saying, all the criticism of the guy, I know, I got it. But I still found the book interesting because it presents, let's see, it's one of these things, okay. It's one of these books which he doesn't really specifically indicate what sort of Eastern philosophy or religion he's studied, but since he's friends with Deepak Chopra, let's assume it's probably Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta or something like that. So it's not totally dissimilar to the Zen ideas about how the universe works. And so every time a book comes out that claims to give a kind of scientific basis or scientific, rationale for Eastern philosophy, I always take those things with a grain of salt, and I've never been terribly interested in them because usually, well, for one thing, at this point especially, I don't need to read some scientific rationale of Zen, for example, to be convinced to study Zen, because I'm already convinced. So I don't need it. And I think maybe other people might find these kind of things valuable because they want to recruit other people. They want to get other people interested in it. So if they get some ammunition from a book like this that gives people kind of influence in science to get interested in Eastern religions, then they'll get all excited to have that. I'm not excited to have that either because I'm not particularly interested in proselytizing to people who don't already have some interest in it already. I know I'm being repetitive. So that's that. Let me give you some of the stuff, though, so in case, for those of you who don't know what I've been talking about for the past 5 minutes. This is a set of quotes he uses to kind of bolster his ideas about biocentrism. They're quotes from famous scientists and things. In the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery we're trying to solve. That's Max Planck. Consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. That's Erwin Schrödinger. Let's see, Werner Heisenberg says, contemporary science today, more than any previous time, has been forced by nature herself to pose again the question of the possibility of comprehending reality by mental processes. John Wheeler, another physicist, says we are not only observers, we are participators. Niels Bohr says, when we measure something, we are forcing an undetermined, undefined world to assume an experimental value. We are not measuring the world, we are creating it. Stephen Hawking says there's no way to remove the observer, us, from our perceptions of the world. The past, like the future, is indefinite and exists only as a spectrum of possibilities. So it's full of weird and interesting ideas like that. He's got his principles of biocentrism. The first principle, what we perceive as reality is a process that involves our consciousness. An external reality, if it existed, would by definition have to exist in the framework of space and time, but space and time are not independent realities, but rather tools of the human and animal mind. Our external and internal perceptions are inextricably intertwined. They are different sides of the same coin and cannot be divorced from one another. The behavior of subatomic particles, indeed all particles and objects, is inextricably linked to the presence of an observer. Absent a conscious observer, they at best exist in an undetermined state of probability waves. Without consciousness, matter, in quotes, dwells in an undetermined state of probability. Any universe that could have preceded consciousness only existed as a probability state, and so on. There's several more of these. So it's a kind of an idea that consciousness or mind is the fundamental substrata of reality rather than matter. And that is kind of the Buddhist view, although Dogen, when he gets into... There's a hummingbird over there, which is really kind of cute. There's two of them. They're really close. Anyway, what was I saying? Dogen, when he gets into the idea of mind, is always saying things like mind is fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles. Mind is the sun, moon, stars. So he's not saying the sun and moon and stars are mind, and fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles are mind. He goes the opposite direction. Mind is those things in the external world. So he's not, Dogen, denying the reality of the external world, or even so much the reality of matter, only saying that matter and mind are inextricably linked, which is, to me, what this book seems to be saying. The criticisms of it say that it's idealism or that it's New Age nonsense. I'm not up on what's the latest trendy thing to say in the New Age circles, but it doesn't strike me as quite that. And I have to say, it's an entertaining book. I really felt like this was an easy read and pretty clear. Although there were spots where I'm just going, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. They'd go for like 2 or 3 paragraphs going, I don't know what that one's about. But then he'd pick me up later and kind of catch me up. So I thought it was really interesting in that regard. And it's like movies. Any movie that doesn't annoy me so much I want to walk out on it or put me to sleep, I think is a good movie these days. My standards for movies have gone so low. And my standards for mainstream books are probably about as low. My standards for non-mainstream books are higher, but my standard for mainstream books are like, does it keep me interested from beginning to end? Wow, that is an amazing book, because so many of them fail to even do that. Actually, most of them fail to even do that for me. But back to that thing about people who are looking for scientific proof of Eastern religions. They always kind of remind me, okay, there's a place in Texas called Glen Rose, and it was near enough to Dallas that sometimes when my dad used to live in Dallas, there's a bird eating one of those loquats. That's so interesting. He's just eating it. Anyway, I'd show you that if I could, but I don't think I can. It was near enough to Dallas that when my dad lived in Dallas, we'd go visit there. It took a few hours to drive there, but in Texas terms, that's not very far. That's the way they think of things there. And they have dinosaur footprints. That's the thing it's mainly known for. They have these some of the best preserved trackways of dinosaurs. Well, right next to the dinosaur footprint place, oh, Ziggy has this habit of eating these little nut kind of things that he finds on the ground, and then he vomits. So I'm gonna go get the nut thing away from him. He didn't finish it all. I got it away from him before he finished it. Anyway, in Glen Rose, Texas, they got the real dinosaur footprints, and then they got right next to it this creationist group has set up a thing with the dinosaur footprints alongside the human footprints to prove that the Noah's Ark was real and that humans live with dinosaurs and stuff like that. I visited the real dinosaur footprints. The last time I went, the creationist dinosaur and human footprints was closed, so couldn't get to see them. But it kind of reminds me of that sort of thing. It's like a more sophisticated version of that sort of thing. Like you want science to prove that your theory is right, or you want some kind of physical evidence, and then you're going to go and prove to the world it's right. And I just see that as sort of a waste of time. If you're going to work with a philosophy like this, you kind of got to take a certain amount of it on faith, for one thing. I mean, it's a whole ball of wax I'm going into there, so let's forget about what I just said. But I don't know, the need for that kind of scientific proof is just kind of silly. I just can't get into it. But anyway, what am I trying to say in my review of the book? If you're going to review a book, just say what you think about it. And I said I think it's good. I mean, I think it's a good book in the sense that it didn't bore me or make me want to throw it across the room, and it kind of gave me some food for thought and stuff. And I realize that there's some controversy around it, but that's fine. I don't mind reading things that are controversial. It's like the main controversy over this guy seems to be the thing that everybody starts off with is he's a medical doctor, he's not a physicist. And I'm like, what does a medical doctor know about physics? Well, what does a punk rock bass player know about Buddhism? I mean, that argument doesn't hold water for me. You can study anything you want, and you might get pretty good at it, even if you don't have that label, under your name. So I'm not really convinced by that. As if that's your main argument, you lost me. So there you go. I think it's an interesting book, and it was enjoyable to read, and it had a nice beat, and you could dance to it. So from that standpoint, I thought it was good. Anyway, if you want to contribute to me being able to buy more books, you can send money to this URL you're seeing on the screen. Thank you for a couple of people who told me that my website was down. It has now been fixed, so you should be able to find it again and donate. So that's nice. If you're having financial troubles or stuff, don't donate to me. Donate to yourself. That's all right. Don't worry about it. But the people who do donate are my only source of income right now, so I really appreciate you guys for donating. So I appreciate your support, and we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Later night. Bye. Hey Ziggy, you gonna keep eating weird stuff off the ground and vomiting? Oh, where are you going? Bye, Ziggy.